Sa Texas Panhandle, inuulan ng hailstones at nanganganib dahil sa mga buhawi. Ating alamin ang sitwasyon mula sa detalye ng balitang ibabahagi maya-maya. Magandang gabi, ako si Rikki, Alagao, Flores at ito po ang mata ng Agila International. Para naman sa mga headlines ngayong araw ng Biyernes. Malacanang naalarma sa panghihimasok ng China sa midterm election sa Pilipinas. China itinanggi ang nasabing alegasyon. Pilipinas kinondena ang terror attack sa Kashmir. China at Estados Unidos nagsagutan ukol sa kawalan ng trade talks. US President Donald Trump hindi na natutuwa sa ginagawang pag-atake ng Russia sa Ukraine. At 6 patay sa bumagsak na police aircraft sa Thailand. Naalarma ang Malacanang sa naging pahayag ng National Security Council o NSC na may mga indikasyon na naghihimasok ang China sa 2025 midterm elections sa Pilipinas. Kinumpirma ni Palace Press Officer Attorney Claire Castro na nakarating na kay Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. ang nasabing issue at sinabing iimbestigahan ito ng administrasyon. Una nang binanggit ni NSC Assistant Director General Jonathan Malaya sa naging Senate inquiry tungkol sa mga na-recover na mga Chinese submersible drones na may mga disinformation campaign na nagaganap na ang tinatarget ay mga kandidatong kontra sa China. May mga kumakalat din anyang pagsuporta sa mga kandidatong gustong manalo ng China. Sa kabila nito, maring itinanggi ng Beijing ang mga paratang ng NSC laban sa kanila. Sinabi ni Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Guo Jiakun na walang interes ang Beijing na mangialam sa ibang mga bansa. Anya, wala sa prinsipyo ng China ang manghimasok sa eleksyon ng Pilipinas. Kasama ang Pilipinas sa mga bansang kumondena sa naging terror attack sa Kashmir, isang Indian territory na ikinasawi naman ng 26 na mga turista. Sa inilabas na pahayag ng Department of Foreign Affairs, kanilang ikinalungkot ang nasabing trahedya sa Pahalgam, isang popular tourist destination sa Kashmir. Tinawag din ng Pilipinas na isang brutal na gawain ng terorismo ang pag-atake sa Kashmir. Isa rin anilang senseless and cowardly act of violence against peaceful civilians ang ginawa ng mga armadong grupo. Nangako naman si Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi na kanilang pananagutan ang mga taong o pananagutin ang mga taong responsable sa pag-atake habang inakusahan nito ang Pakistan na sumusuporta umano sa cross-border terrorism. Luluwas patungong Estados Unidos sina Trade Secretary Maria Cristina Roque at Special Assistant to the President for Investments and Economic Affairs Secretary Frederick Go sa susunod na linggo. Inaasahan na magsisimula ang kanilang official trip sa April 29 hanggang May 2 para makipagpulong sa U.S. Trade Representatives at sa Secretary of Commerce sa Washington, D.C. Maaaring mag-alok ang Pilipinas ng mas mataas na volume ng imports mula sa Estados Unidos tulad ng mga agricultural products. Layo ng kanilang pagbisita na maibaba ang tariff rate na ipinataw ni U.S. President Donald Trump sa Pilipinas. Iniulat ng Department of Health o DOH na bumaba ng 23% ang naitalang kaso ng dengue sa buong Pilipinas. Batay sa monitoring ng Health Department, mula March 16 hanggang March 29, nakapagtala sila ng 9,289 new cases ng dengue. Mas mababa ito kung ikukumpara sa naitala ng DOH noong pagitan ng March 2 at 15 na 12,050 cases. Git ng ahensya, ang naitalang pagbaba sa kaso ng sakit ay iniugnay nila sa mas pinalawak at pagpapatupad ng kampanyang Taob, Taktak, Tuyo, Takip. Sa kabila nito, hinihikayat pa rin ng DOH ang publiko na panatilihin ang kalinisan sa kanilang kapaligiran bilang paghahanda na rin ito para sa nalalapit na tag-ulan sa buwan ng Hulyo at Agosto. Kinumpirma ng Philippine Consulate General sa New York na wala silang natanggap na ulat na nasaktang Pilipino sa malawakang wildfire sa New Jersey sa Estados Unidos. Ayon sa mga local authorities, nagsimula ang wildfire sa Greenwood Forest Wildfire Management Area. Mabilis na kumalat ang sunog at nadamay ang libu-libong ektarya ng kagubatan. Agad namang inilikas ng mga otoridad ang mga residente patungo sa ligtas na lugar. Batay sa pinakahuling ulat, nakontrol na ng mga bombero sa 50% ang sunog, ngunit patuloy pa rin ang banta sa mga ari-arian at kagubatan. Tiniyak naman ng konsulado na mahigpit nilang binabantayan ang sitwasyon mula nang magsimula ang wildfire. Hinimok din ng Philippine Consulate ang mga miyembro ng Filipino community sa mga apektadong lugar na manatiling alerto at sumunod sa utos ng mga otoridad. Naku, mapapakamot ulo na naman po mga motorista dahil nakaamba sa susunod na linggo ang panibagong taas presyo sa produktong petrolyo. Batay sa 4-day trade forecast, maaaring tumaas ng hanggang 80 sentimos hanggang 1.40 ang presyo sa kada litro ng gasolina. 40 sentimos naman hanggang piso ang posibleng taas presyo kada litro ng diesel. Habang 50 sentimos hanggang 70 sentimos naman ang magiging taas presyo sa kada litro ng kerosene o gaas. Ayon sa Department of Energy Oil Industry Management Bureau, kaya tumaas ang presyo ng oil products ay dahil ito sa hindi tiyak na supply ng langis dulot ng ipinataw na sanctions ng US sa Iran Oil Shipping Network. Susunod, China at US nagsagutan ukol sa trade talks. North Korean missiles ginagamit sa Russian airstrikes. At Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky pinanghihinaan ng loob sa Estados Unidos. Patuloy po mantabay sa aking pagbabalita, magbabalik pa ang mata ng Agila International.
Trask? Fun games, water park adventure, rides, neon lights na pwedeng pang selfie, fireworks, at pinaka-inaabangan nating lahat, concert all night long. Isang buong araw ito. So get your tickets now and experience the summer you'll always remember. Only at the Philippine Arena Complex, Ciudad de Victoria, Bocaue, Bulacan, on April 27, 2025. Sobrang init na ba? Let's vibe this summer blast together with Nat 25. Blast 2025 is brought to you by our presenter, Clean and Fit. Our gold sponsors, Eurotel, Hotel Dream World. Silver sponsors, Pure Gold, Micaela, Top Bank, Tiki Tiki Syrup, Tiki Tiki Plus Drops, Photowism, Pure Foods Tender Juicy Hot Dog, J&T Express, Lux Beauty and Wellness Group. Sponsors: Royal Care Marketing Services Incorporated, De Los Santos Medical Center, and the Department of Health.
Na-monitor ng Chinese People's Liberation Army o PLA Eastern Theater Command na naglayag ang USS William P. Lawrence sa Taiwan Strait nitong Miyerkules. Ayon kay Senior Colonel Shi Yi, spokesperson ng PLA, nag-deploy sila ng mga hukbong pandagat at panghimpapawid upang subaybayan ang guided missile destroyer ng Estados Unidos. Nanatili ring nilang alerto ang PLA sa buong oras ng paglalayag ng USS Lawrence. Nanawagan din si Senior Colonel Shi sa Estados Unidos na itigil na nito ang public hyping o pagtataguyod ng isang issue na madalas ay pinalalaki upang mapansin ng publiko. Sinabi pa ng opisyal na dapat na ring itigil ng US ang pagbaluktot sa katotohanan at mag-ambag na lamang sa kapayapaan at katatagan sa buong Taiwan Strait. Dati nang sinabi ng Indo-Pacific Command na ang paglalayag ng USS Lawrence ay pagpapakita ng pangako ng Estados Unidos na itaguyod ang kalayaan sa paglalayag para sa lahat ng mga bansa bilang isang prinsipyo. Inanunsyo naman ni US President Donald Trump na nagsisimula na ang trade talks sa pagitan ng China at ng Estados Unidos. Kasunod ito ng paratang ng China na wala pang nagaganap na trade talks ng dalawang bansa, sinabi ni Foreign Ministry spokesperson Guo Jiakun na palabas lamang ang mga komento ng US ukol sa pakikipag-ugnayan sa CCP.
这些都是假消息。据我了解，中美双方并没有就关税问题进行磋商或谈判，更谈不上达成协议。这场关税战是由美方发起的，中方的态度是一贯的、明确的，打奉陪到底，谈大门敞开。对话谈判必须是平等、尊重、互惠的。
Ayon naman sa isang opisyal ng White House ay may naganap na lower-level in-person talks at mga phone engagements na naganap sa pagitan ng dalawang bansa. Inihayag din ng Washington ang kanilang interes na sumailalim sa trade talks kasama ang karamihan ng bansang pinatawan nila ng taripa.
Will you have meetings with other world leaders when you're in Rome?
Yes, I will.
Which leaders do you want to meet, sir?
Well, I'd like to meet them all. That would be nice. I'd like to take care of all of them, but we have many of them there, and they all want to meet. And they want to meet about trade. And we are making some great inroads and great deals. Additionally, we talked about trade, and we will definitely, we get along very well on trade. We'll do something, but I think the Prime Minister knows that over the years, the United States has been very good to a lot of people. And it's time for us to benefit also. So we're going to have a good relationship on trade, and we discussed other things also.
Nakaantabay ang buong mundo matapos maggantihan sa pagtaas ng taripa ang Washington at Beijing. Nakasalalay ang estado ng world market sa mga kaganapan sa gitna ng dalawang pinakamalaking ekonomiya sa mundo. Isang video ngayon ang kumakalat sa social media kung saan makikita ang isang ballistic missile ng North Korea. Ayon kay Anton Gerashchenko, dating advisor ng Minister of Internal Affairs ng Ukraine, ang missile na ito ay ginamit umano ng Russia para atakihin ang Kiev. 8 tao ang namatay habang higit 80 individual ang sugatan dahil sa overnight strike. Isang residential building din ang tinamaan at ayon sa mga otoridad, posibleng may mga biktimang nabaon sa pag-atake ng Russia. May ilang news agencies ang kumontak sa Kremlin at sa embahada ng North Korea sa London, ngunit wala pang inilalabas na sagot ang mga nabanggit na bansa. Dati na ring napaulat na nagsusupply ang Pyongyang ng missiles at iba pang mga armas sa Moscow. May mga nahuli na ring sundalo ng North Korea sa Ukraine. Pero nagpasa hanggang ngayon ay itinatanggi pa rin ito ng North Korea. Sinabi ni Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky na hindi nito makita ang anumang senyales na malakas ang US pressure sa Russia kaugnay ng peace talks para sa Moscow at Kiev. Alamin natin ang mga detalye mula kay Net 25 correspondent Rosel Feria.
Sa briefing kasama ni South African counterpart Cyril Ramaphosa, sinabi ni Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky na umaasa itong makakakita ng mas matinding pressure sa Russia mula sa Estados Unidos.
Я не бачу зараз сильного тиску на Росію і нових якихось сильних санкційних пакетів проти агресії Російської Федерації. Поки що ми дуже надіємось. Без закидів, абсолютно без емоцій і закидів дуже прямо говоримо. Вважаємо, що при більшому тиску на Російську Федерацію ми зможемо наблизити наші сторони, якщо хочете, хоча ми наближені. Окей.
Ayon kay Zelensky, ginagawa ng Ukraine ang mungkahi ng mga kaalyado nito, subalit hindi anya nito kayang ipagsawalang bahala ang konstitusyon ng bansa.
Ми все робимо, що пропонували партнери, тільки те, що суперечить нашому законодавству і Конституції, ми не можемо робити. І це зрозуміло, бо навіть боротьба за незалежність нашої держави, за наш суверенітет і за територіальну цілісність – це наше виживання. І тут ми абсолютно прямі і абсолютно прозорі.
Ayon pa kay Zelensky, malaking kompromiso na sa bahagi ng Kiev ang sumang-ayon na makipagnegosasyon sa Russia sakaling may ceasefire nang nakapwesto.
Нема сенсу без припинення вогню, безумовно, говорити про будь-які червоні лінії. Повірте мені, це втягування в дуже довгий процес, в дуже довгу війну, яка може йти дуже-дуже довго.
Dagdag ng Pangulo, hindi naging madali ang mga pag-uusap ng mga opisyal ng Ukraine at ng kanluran sa London noong Miyerkules, subalit ito anya ay nakabubuti.
Конструктивна наша команда, європейська команда і представники Сполучених Штатів поговорили і на папері з'явились відповідні пункти. Після пропозиції Сполучених Штатів з'явились інші папіри. І я вважаю, що сьогодні цей формат, цей документ знаходиться на столі у президента Трампа. Все, що суперечить нашим цінностям або нашій Конституції, не може бути в будь-яких домовленостях.
Rosel Feria, Washington, D.C. para sa Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Siyam ang patay at higit sa 70 katao ang sugatan matapos ang missile at drone attacks ng Russia sa Kiev sa Ukraine nitong Huwebes. Si Jeff Sanidad para sa detalye.
Isang overnight Russian combined missile at drone attack ang naging mitsa ng mga sunog, ikinawasak ng mga gusali at ikinatabon ng mga residente sa Kiev, kabisera ng Ukraine. Ayon sa mga opisyal ng Ukraine, 7 ang patay at higit 70 ang sugatan. 6 sa nasaktan ay mga bata. Sinasabing ang pinakamalalang insidente ay ang pagkasira ng isang apartment building sa Sviyan-Stoshonsky district sa kanluran ng city center. Ayon sa emergency service ng bansa, naglunsad ng operasyon ng rescue team sa 13 lokasyon sa Kyiv. Kasama sa mga sumugod para tumulong ang climbing specialist pati na sniper dogs. 40 sunog ang nagliyab sa mga garahe at administrative buildings. Tinamaan rin ng naghuhulugang metal fragments ang mga sasakyan. 6 na oras sumugong ang red alert sa kabisera. Walang komento mula sa Moscow hinggil sa pag-ataking ito sa Kiev. Sa kasalukuyan, kapwa pinipressure ng Estados Unidos ang Ukraine at Russia na magpakita ng progreso ukol sa kasunduang pangkapayapaan, lalo pat pumapasok na sa ika-4 na taon ng labanan sa pagitan ng dalawang bansa. Jeff Sanidad para sa Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Nagpahayag ng kalungkutan si US President Donald Trump sa ginawang madugong pag-atake ng Russia sa Ukraine.
I see the results. It's horrible. It's a killing field. 5,000 soldiers a week on average. And we want to stop that. We both want to stop that for a lot of reasons, but I would say that is my number one reason. Yeah, please go ahead.
Mr. President, this morning in Truth Social Post, you used the words Vladimir, stop. That seemed like a slightly different message, a personal message. What is your level of frustration with President Putin?
I didn't like last night. I wasn't happy with it. And we're in the midst of talking peace, and missiles were fired. And I was not happy with it. That's what I meant, and that's, what it is.
Ayon kay Trump, dapat tigilan na ng Russia ang nasabing pag-atake. Nanawagan din ito kay Russian President Vladimir Putin na tigilan na ang pag-atake sa Kiev. Aabot na kasi sa 5,000 mga sundalo umanong nasasawi kada linggo dahil sa labanan. Magugunitang naglunsad ng malawakang pag-atake ang Russia sa 13 lugar sa Kiev na ikinasawi ng 12 katao at ikinasugat naman ang 70 iba pa. Magugunitang namamagitan ng US para isulong ang usaping pagkapayapaan sa pagitan ng Russia at Ukraine.
What concessions has Russia offered up thus far to get to the point where you're closer to peace?
Stopping the war, taking the whole country. Pretty big concession.
Nagkita sina British Energy Minister Ed Miliband at Head of International Energy Agency Fatih Birol sa Energy Security Summit. Ang two-day summit ay ginanap sa London kung saan iba't ibang opisyal mula sa 60 mga estado at mga kinatawan ng industriya ng enerhiya ang dumalo. Tinalakay ng mga nasabing leader ang gas security, critical minerals at energy system ng Ukraine.
Now, oil and gas, including from our North Sea, will continue to play an important role in our energy system, and we really value our industry and the jobs it supports. But as with many other countries, we're a price taker, not a price maker in international fossil fuel markets. So our vision of low-carbon power goes well beyond the climate imperative, important as that is. Homegrown low-carbon power is our nationally chosen route to energy security.
Nagpresenta rin ng isang roadmap si EU Chief Ursula von der Leyen sa nasabing summit. Target ng EU na i-phase out ang pag-aangkat ng langis mula Russia pagdating ng taong 2027.
In 2 weeks, our Energy Commissioner, Dan Jorgensen, will present a roadmap with concrete measures to phase out all imports of Russian fossil fuels, so that we will no longer rely on a hostile power for our energy supply.
Ininspeksyon ni British Prime Minister Keir Starmer at Defense Minister John Healey ang HMS Prince of Wales. Umalis ang sasakyang pandagat at aircraft carrier ng United Kingdom sa Portsmouth City para sa 8 buwang deployment nito. Sakay nito ang 1,600 Marines at 24 na F-35B fighter jets. Ayon sa Royal Navy, magsasagawa ng military exercises ang HMS Prince of Wales sa Mediterranean, Middle East, Southeast Asia, Japan at Australia. Ang misyon na ito ay bahagi ng pangako ng United Kingdom sa NATO at ang pagpapatupad ng pandaigdigang seguridad. Isa pong pansamantalang pabahay para sa may 2,000 sub-Saharan African migrants ang ginaba ng mga otoridad ng Tunisia. Alamin natin ang mga detalye mula kay Anna Cui.
Nasa 9,000 mga migrante na ang naapektuhan ng operasyon ng Tunisia na pagbuwag ng makeshift camp housing para sa sub-Saharan African migrants. Ang operasyon na sinimulan noong 5 ng Abril ay inilalarawang hindi pa nagawa kailanman at lalong nagpapasama ng krisis ng migrasyon. Ayon sa Tunisian government, may 20,000 mga migrante ang kasalukuyang nakatira sa mga tolda na itinayo sa mapupunong lugar sa palibot ng mga bayan sa Katimugan. Kabilang dito ang mga bayan ng Amra at Jabanyana. Ito ay matapos harangan ng mga migranteng tumawid ng Mediterranean. Ayon sa isang opisyal ng Tunisian National Guard, hindi na makababalik pa ang mga migrante sa mga kampong giniba.
بالنسبة للعملية متاع اليوم هي مواصلة للعملية الفارطة اللي بدأت منذ أفريل 2025 في خاصة في عملية إزالة المخيمات، والدولة التونسية ليست هناك عودة إلى الوراء، خاصة في العودة إلى المخيمات اللي ريناها تقريبا اللي مختلف الوحدات نتاعنا الاستعلاماتية اللي قاعدة تخدم حتى الميدانية والعملياتية تخدم على الميدان. ما ثماش العودة للأفارقة جنوب الصحراء في المخيمات اللي تمت إزالتها.
Para naman sa mga migrante tulad ni Aikini, isang kakaibang pagsubok ang dinaranas nila sa tuwing gigibain ang kanilang mga tinutuluyan.
J'étais en ville, mais du moment que je suis venu ici, parce que c'est ici qu'on utilise comme un lieu de traversée, donc chaque fois il y a des démantèlements, vous voyez, il y a le changement de campo, donc c'est des difficultés, les différentes difficultés qu'on rencontre ici actuellement. Et quand ça vient comme ça, des fois ils font tomber toutes les maisons, les habits, les trucs, tout ce que tu as, tu les perds en un clin d'œil, quoi. C'est ça les différentes difficultés que nous rencontrons ici.
Tumindi ng tumindi ang tensyon sa pagitan ng mga migrante at mga residente ng Tunisia. Marami sa Tunisians ang nagreklamong paalisin ng mga migrante sa kanilang mga lugar. Kinondena ng human rights groups ang tugon ng gobyerno sa reklamo. Inakusahan ng mga ito ang Tunisian government ng racism, kalupitan sa mga migrante at pag-aresto sa mga aktivistang tumutulong sa mga inilikas. Ana Cui para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Pinangunahan ng New York ang 12 state upang pigilan ang Trump tariffs ng kasalukuyang administrasyon. Pinanindigan sa hinandang lawsuit na wala umanong karapatan si US President Donald Trump na magsimula ng malawakang trade war. Inihain ng 12 estado ang reklamo sa United States Court of International Trade. Inakusahan naman ng White House si New York Attorney General Letitia James na inuunang pagtugis kay President Trump kaysa unahin ang kaligtasan ng kanyang mga nasasakupan. Ayon kay White House spokesman Kush Desai, na natiling committed ang administrasyon sa paggamit ng kanilang full legal authority sa pagharap sa national emergencies na kinakaharap ng kanilang bansa. Napigilan ng korte ang pagpapasara ng operasyon ng Voice of America. Ito ay matapos ipag-utos ni Liberal Judge Roy C. Lamberth sa Trump administration na ibalik sa employees ng Voice of America ang mga trabaho na kanilang sinuspinde. Ayon pa kay Lamberth, ang ginawang executive order ng White House ay arbitraryo at walang sapat na pagsusuri. Dagdag pa niya, lumalabag din ito sa batas na nagtataguyod sa press freedom ng kanilang bansa. Noong March 14, ipinag-utos ng US government na ilagay sa indefinite leave ang mga empleyado ng Voice of America, pati na rin ang kasamahan nitong mga kumpanya na Radio Free Asia and Middle East Broadcasting Networks. Ayon sa White House, ang nasabing executive order ay inilatag upang tumugma sa pro-American values at operasyon ng VOA. Nagpahayag naman ng pagsuporta ang American Foreign Service Association at grupo ng mga mamamahayag sa desisyon ng hukuman. Anila, isa itong tagumpay para sa kalayaan at karapatan ng mga journalists. Ayon kay Patsy Widakuwara, ang VOA White House Bureau Chief, masaya siya sa naging desisyon, ngunit inaalala na aapila pa rin ang Trump administration. Ayon pa sa kanya, ang desisyon ay hindi lamang para sa trabaho, kundi para sa seguridad ng Amerika. Anya, ang pagkawala ng Voice of America ay nagbibigay ng pagkakataon na kumalat ang mga maling impormasyon.
Tonight, the Voice of America is silent. The storied broadcaster was launched in 1942 to counter Nazi propaganda. But 2 weeks ago, President Donald Trump usurped Congress's authority and signed an executive order, effectively shutting down the taxpayer-funded broadcaster for what the White House calls radical propaganda. Friday, a federal judge put any further actions by the administration on hold. Over the decades, VOA has projected American values globally, and for hundreds of millions, it was the place to find fact-based news about America and the world in their own languages. It all came crashing down in a single day.
Susunod, Texas State isinailalim sa severe weather warning. Chinese Shenzhou 20 crewed spaceship nagsagawa ng successful launch. At at Alex Ayala nabigo sa kanyang revenge match with Iga Swiatek. Patuloy pong tumutok dito sa aking programa. Magbabalik pa ang mata ng Agila International.
Trask Construction. It's hotter, the most awaited happening of your summer. It's the Summer Blast 2025. But wait, the best got better. Because it is Nat 25's silver anniversary. Grabe ang init ngayong Summer Blast. Kaya mag-summer outfit check na tayo para sa fun games, water park adventure, rides, neon lights na pwedeng pang selfie, fireworks, at pinaka-inaabangan nating lahat, concert all night long. Isang buong araw ito. So get your tickets now and experience the summer you'll always remember. Only at the Philippine Arena Complex, Ciudad de Victoria, Bocaue, Bulacan, on April 27, 2025. Sobrang init na ba? Let's vibe this Summer Blast together with Nat 25. Summer Blast 2025 is brought to you by our presenter, Clean and Fit. Our gold sponsors, Eurotel, Hotel Dream World. Silver sponsors, Pure Gold, Micaela, Top Bank, Tiki Tiki Syrup, Tiki Tiki Plus Drops, Photowism, Pure Foods Tender Juicy Hot Dog, J&T Express, Lux Beauty and Wellness Group. Sponsors: MM Royal Care Marketing Services Incorporated, De Los Santos Medical Center, and the Department of Health.
Muling nagbabalik ang mata ng Agila International sa pagpapatuloy po ng ating mga balita. Hindi nakaligtas ang 6 na sakay ng police aircraft sa Thailand matapos bumagsak ito sa baybayin ng Hua Hin. Ayon sa lokal na ulat, nasa gitna sila ng test flight para sa isang parachute training nang nag-malfunction ang makina ng aircraft sa himpapawid. Sa video footage, makikita ang ilang sandali ng pag-nosedive ng eroplano patungo sa tubig. Patuloy naman ang investigasyon ng mga otoridad sa sitwasyon. Kumakalap na rin sila ng mga ebidensya para matukoy ang sanhi ng plane crash. Samantala, sa isang hiwalay na insidente, nakaligtas ang 3 sakay ng medical chopper sa Illinois matapos bumagsak, tumama at bumaligtad sa ilalim ng isang puno. Ayon sa salaysay ng mga nakasaksi, nagsasagawa ng helicopter landing ang Hartford Fire Department nang biglang bahagi ng isang training o bilang isang bahagi ng isang training exercise. Kinumpirma naman ng Arch Medical na walang nasawi sa insidente at nakikipagtulungan sila sa mga otoridad para tukuyin ang dahilan ng pagbagsak ng nasabing aircraft. Nagdeklara po ang National Weather Station ng tornado warnings sa ilang lugar sa Texas Panhandle dahil sa mga buhawi at mga hailstones na bumubuhos sa rehiyon. Giit ng National Weather Station, may lakas na hanggang 60 miles per hour ang mga buhawi na kanilang namataan sa Texas. Higit pa rito ay inaasahan ng weather station na magdadala ng kalat-kalat na pag-ulan at pagkidlat ang weather disturbance sa buong rehiyon. Inabisuhan din ng mga otoridad ang mga residente na manatili muna sa kani-kanilang mga tahanan dahil sa malakas na ihip ng hangin na nararanasan sa Texas Panhandle. Sinuwag ng mga toro sa India ang mga panindang gulay ng isang tinderong matapos silang makawala sa koral at pumunta sa palengke ng Janagad, Gujarat. Ayon sa lokal na ulat, may 2 toro ang nag-aaway sa kalsada kaya nang natalo ang isa sa mga ito ay dali-daling dumiretso ito sa stall ng mga gulay. Makikita rin sa CCTV footage ang mabilis na pag-iwas ng isang lalaki mula sa hayop at ang pag-alis ng tindero mula sa kanyang tindahan. Sa ibang angle ng video ay mapapansin na pumasok ang puting toro habang may ibang toro pa ang maksama sa gulo. Pinalayas naman ang mga tindero mga hayop mula sa kanilang mga tindahan sa pamamagitan ng pagpalo nito ng tubo dahil sa pinsalang idinulot nila sa kanilang negosyo. Wala namang nasaktang tao sa insidente at nahuli naman din ang mga nakawalang mga toro. Dahil sa pinangangambahang epekto ng mga taripa, sinabi ng Germany na malamang ay walang magiging pag-usad sa ekonomiya ang kanilang bansa sa taong ito. Narito po ang report ni Net 25 correspondent NJ De Guzman.
Noong Huwebes, binawasan ng gobyerno ng Germany ang economic growth forecast nito at sinabing napipinto ang kawalan ng pagbabago o stagnation imbis na tumaas ito ng 0.3%. Ito ay sa gitna ng kawalang katiyakan mula sa pambuong mundong hindi pagkakasundo sa kalakalan na nakatakdang puminsala sa pag-usad at magpahina sa pamumuhunan. Isinisi ni German Economic Minister Robert Habeck ang sitwasyon sa taripa ng Estados Unidos.
Und wie auch ja schon bekannt ist, werden wir die Prognose noch einmal absenken müssen, und zwar um 0,3% für das Jahr 25 auf 0,0. Das heißt also eine Stagnation, sagen wir voraus, für dieses Jahr, für das Jahr 2026. Senken wir die Prognose von 1,1% auf 1% ab. Das hat vor allem einen Grund, nämlich die Handelspolitik von Donald Trump und die Auswirkungen der Handelspolitik.
Ang Germany ang natatanging G7 economy na nabigong umusad nitong nakaraang 2 taon. Ang bansa ay pinakamalaking ekonomiya sa Europa, subalit sinasabing dahil sa taripa ng US, mananatili ang Germany sa hindi umuusad na kalagayan sa unang pagkakataon sa kasaysayan.
Wir sollten zur Kenntnis nehmen, dass wir es mit einer fundamentalen, ich würde sagen paradigmatischen Verschiebung der ökonomischen Grundeinnahmen zu tun haben. Wir haben es auf die harte Tour gelernt, als auf einmal eine drohende Gasmangellage abgewendet werden musste, aber man sah es schon davor bei dem Anstieg des Außenhandels, der Außenhandelsbilanz. Die Stärke der deutschen Wirtschaft, der Reichtum dieses Landes, die Steuereinnahmen, sie liegen eben maßgeblich an einem funktionierenden Handel, an einer funktionierenden globalisierten Welt. Und die ist nicht mehr.
Nanawagan si Habeck sa European Union at Estados Unidos na humanap ng solusyon pangkalakalan. Gayon din na maghanda ang European Union ng countermeasures kung kinakailangan. NJ De Guzman, Washington DC para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Isinisi ng kumpanyang Nissan sa restructuring bites ang $5.26 billion na net loss o pagkalugi nito. Sinabi ng Japanese automaker na nagkaroon ito ng impairments na umabot ng higit sa $3.5 billion. Mahigit sa $421 million naman ang karagdagang restructuring costs ng Nissan. Upang makatipid, nagpaplano na ang kumpanya na magbawas ng trabaho at magsara ng mga planta. Nako, sa mga nangangarap po dyan na maging mga negosyante, ito na ang inyong big chance dahil umarangkada na po ang Franchise Asia Philippines 2025. Ito ang pinakamalaki at grandiosong franchise show sa Asia at sa buong mundo. Si Mark De La Rosa para sa balita.
Matagal mo nang pinapangarap magkanegosyo pero hindi mo alam kung paano magsisimula? Ito na yung chance mo. Dahil sinimulan na ngayong araw ang Franchise Asia Philippines 2025.
And I couldn't be more excited to welcome each and every one of you to the biggest franchise show in Asia and one of the grandest in the world.
Ang expo na ito na pinangunahan ng Philippine Franchise Association ay parang isang malaking tindahan ng business ideas. May libo-libong brands na pwedeng pagpilian na mga gustong sumakses sa negosyo.
Franchising is one of the easiest ways to get into business. Kasi nga may 90% success rate. Kasi imagine mo, pagsimula mo ng negosyo, nandyan na yung brand, nandyan na yung produkto, lahat ng paano ipatakot, tinuturo na sa'yo. And because of that, ang dami nagpa-franchise. And every franchise that opens creates 10 more jobs. Kaya 2 billion jobs na in the franchise industry ngayon.
Hindi mo kailangang mag-start from scratch dahil tried and tested na ang business model nila. May free seminars, business talks at real-life stories ng mga nagsimula sa maliit pero ngayon, big time na.
For the franchising aspect, with the help of RanCorp, they build our system. So basically, yung mga training, documentation, and right now, because of the help of RanCorp, we have 150 franchise stores nationwide. To think that we just started franchising in 2021.
Makakausap mo rito mismo ang mga brand owners at franchise managers. Pwede ka na magtanong ng presyo, kita at kung paano magsimula at manatiling matatag sa industriya.
Starting this year, makikita nyo na ang pagbubukas ng mga Mr. Donut stores na mas malalaki. We would like yung Filipino consumers natin to know that yung Mr. Donut sa Philippines is the same Mr. Donut store na nakikita nila sa ibang bansa. Like in Japan, Thailand, Taiwan, Indonesia, Hong Kong, and Singapore.
Malaki ang tulong ng International Franchise Expo sa mga Pinoy entrepreneurs, lalo na yung mga nagsisimula pa lang. Sila yung dahilan kung bakit maraming Pinoy brands ang naging kilala nationwide. Pero hindi lang produktong Pinoy ang bida rito dahil pati bigating international names pinagkakaguluhan din.
For those na gustong magnegosyo, come to Franchise Asia. It's April 25 to 27 dito sa SMX, Manila. Free entry siya as long as you pre-register franchiseasiaph.com. It's the best way if you wanna be your own boss.
Mark De La Rosa para sa mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Sinaspindi ng India ang visa services nito para sa mga Pakistani. Kasunod ito na nangyaring pag-atake sa mga turista sa Kashmir. Itinanggi ng Pakistan na may kinalaman ito sa insidente. Pero itinuloy pa rin ng Foreign Ministry ang pag-revoke o pagpapawalang visa ng lahat ng mga kasalukuyang visa na in-issue ng India sa mga Pakistani. Pinayuhan din ng nasabing ahensya na umalis na sa Pakistan ang lahat ng mga Indian nationals doon.
This is just the first step. These are the non-kinetic first steps that the government has taken to change the rules of engagement with Pakistan that is no longer business as usual. So no coming, no going visas. They will not be allowed, that we don't want them. Basically, this is the message, that we don't want them, we don't want to see them in our country, and those who are here will have to leave.
May ilang mga Kashmir attack survivors ang nagsalaysay na nangyari ang pag-atake ng ilang militante sa may Baisaran Valley. Bigla na lamang anila silang pinaputukan ng mga armadong tao. Sinisilip din anila ng mga gunmen ang kanilang tent upang tiyakin kung may buhay pa bago sila paputukan.
മടങ്ങി വന്ന് താഴെ എത്തി ഒന്ന് ഹോട്ടലിൽ കയറിയ സമയത്ത് ഭക്ഷണം കഴിക്കാൻ ഹോട്ടലിൽ കയറിയ സമയത്താണ് ഈ മിലിറ്ററി വാഹനങ്ങൾ പരക്കം പായുന്നത് കണ്ടത്. അദ്ദേഹം ഡ്രൈവർ പറഞ്ഞു, അവരെ സഹോദരൻ വിളിച്ചു പറഞ്ഞു പ്രശ്നമുണ്ട് പെട്ടെന്ന് സ്ഥലം വിട്ടോളാൻ. അങ്ങനെ ഡ്രൈവറുടെ സഹായത്തോടു കൂടെ പെട്ടെന്ന് പഹൽഗാം വിട്ട് ശ്രീനഗറിൽ എത്തിക്കൊണ്ട് മാത്രമാണ് രക്ഷപ്പെട്ടതെന്നില്ല. ശരിക്കും പറഞ്ഞാൽ ആ കുതിരയിൽ നിന്നില്ല ഒരു വീഴ്ചയില്ലായിരുന്നു.
Ibinida ng U.S. Treasury Secretary na may nakaabang na oportunidad pangkalakalan para sa isang big deal o malaking kasunduan sa pagitan ng Estados Unidos at China. Subalit kasabay nito ay ang pahayag na kailangang bumalanse ang China at magbago na. Narito ang report ni JC Yumul.
Noong Miyerkules, dinetalya ni U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent kung papaanong pinatatakbo ng China ang economic model ng bansa nito upang makaiwas sa kapahamakan.
China's current economic model is built on exporting its way out of its economic troubles. It's an unsustainable model that is not only harming China, but the entire world.
Dagdag ni Bessent, may oportunidad na nakaabang ukol sa malaking kasunduan kung may pagbabago magmumula sa China.
What I have said previously, there is an opportunity for a big deal here, that the U.S. is looking to rebalance to more manufacturing. The identity of that would be less consumption. If China is serious on less dependence on export-led manufacturing growth and a rebalancing toward a domestic economy. I think they use the term dual circulation. Well, right now it's really singular circulation. And if they want to rebalance, let's do it together. This is an incredible opportunity. And I think if Bridgewater founder Ray Dalio were to write something, he could call it a beautiful rebalancing. China needs to change. The country knows it needs to change. Everyone knows it needs to change, and we want to help it change because we need rebalancing too.
Nanawagan rin si Bessent sa International Monetary Fund at sa World Bank na mag-refocus sa pangunahing mga misyon nito na macroeconomic stability and development. Anin Bessent, naglayag na ng malayo ang mga ahensyang ito papuntaan niya sa walang kabuluhang mga proyekto tulad ng climate change. Ayon kay Bessent, binawasan ng mga proyektong ito ang pagiging epektibo ng IMF at World Bank.
The IMF must hold countries accountable for implementing economic reforms, and sometimes the IMF needs to say no. The organization has no obligation to lend to countries that fail to implement reforms. Economic stability and growth should be the markers of the IMF's success, not how much money the institution lends out. The World Bank must be tech neutral and prioritize affordability in energy investment. In most cases, this means investing in gas and other fossil fuel-based energy production. In other cases, this may mean investing in renewable energy coupled with systems to help manage the intermittency of wind and solar. The history of humanity teaches a simple lesson. Energy abundance sparks economic abundance. That's why the bank should encourage an all-of-the-above approach to energy development.
Minagyan din ni Bessent na ang mga salitang America First ay hindi nangangahulugang mag-isang Amerika. Kabaliktaran aniya ito, ibig sabihin ay panawagan ito sa mas malalim na kolaborasyon at respetuhan sa trade partners. JC Yumul para sa Mata ng Agila International, Trusted Connected. On point.
Matagumpay na inilunsad ng China ang Shenzhou 20 spaceship nito sa Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center. Sakay ng Shenzhou 20 ang 3 astronauts na dadaong sa Tiangong Space Station na nasa orbit ng Earth. Tumagal ng 6.5 oras bago nakarating ang Shenzhou 20 spaceship sa Tiangong. Sinabi ng China Manned Space Agency o CMSA na magtatagal ang 6 na buwan ang kanilang astronaut sa space station. Sinalubong naman ang Shenzhou 19 crew, sina Commander Chen Dong, Chen Zhongrui at Wang Jie sa Tiangong. Dagdag ng CMSA, magkakaroon din ng 5-day handover duties ang 2 crew teams sa Shenzhou. Napiguman si Filipina tennis star player Alex Agila sa kanyang rematch kay world number 2 Iga Świątek ng Poland sa Madrid Open. Positibo at masaya pa rin si Alex sa nangyari. Nanalo sa round 1 si Alex pero nakabawi si Iga na mas matagal ang play experience sa clay court. Natapos ang kanilang rematch sa score na 6-4, 4-6, 2-6 Biyernes ng madaling araw, oras sa Pilipinas, naganap sa Spain. Inamin ni Alex na saludo siya sa husay ng nakalaban at sinabing may mga aral siyang makukuha sa pagkatalong ito na magagamit niya sa mga susunod na sasalihang torneo. Nakatakda pong sumailalim sa magnetic resonance imaging si Golden State Warriors player Jimmy Butler. Ito ay matapos na magtamo ng injury mula sa kanyang matinding pagkakahulog kung saan naapektuhan ang kanyang tailbone. Nangyari ang insidente nang talunin sila ng Houston Rockets 109-94. Matapos siyang ma-foul ni Amen Thompson ay naging malakas ang kanyang pagbagsak. Nagawa pa niyang tumayo at naipasok pa nito ang 2 free throw. Matapos ito ay inilabas siya sa playing court dahil sa iniindang sakit. Umaasa si Warriors head coach Steve Kerr na makasama nila si Butler sa Game 3 laban sa Rockets. Inilabas ng Universal Pictures ang nakasisindak na trailer ng isang bagong horror film na nagmula kay Get Out creator Jordan Peele at Kicks director Justin Tipping. Ang nasabing pelikula na pinamagatang Him ay tungkol sa isang injured quarterback na magsasanay upang muling makapaglaro sa tulong ng kanyang idolo na may tinatagong katakot-takot na sikreto. Pagbibidahan ng pelikulang ito si Tyreek Withers na mula sa CW show na Legacies at White Chick star Marlon Wayans. Ito ay produkto ng Monkey Paw Productions ni Jordan Peele na may gawa rin ng iba pang mga sikat na horror films katulad ng Get Out, Candyman at Nope. Inaasahang lalabas ang pelikulang Him sa mga sinehan sa September 19 nitong taong ito.
No days off.
Susunod, bagong kulay, natuklasan. At Rolls-Royce naglabas ng luxury chess set. Abangan ang iba pang mga storya pagdating ni Alma Angeles at ng Net25 World News. Huwag muna po kayong aalis, manatili pa rin makatutok. Babalik pa ang mata ng Agila International.
Hello po, ako po si Wedge Kujawat.
Ako po si Gianna Llanes.
At kasama po kaming nakikigalak sa pagdiriwang ng Net25 ng kanyang ika-25 taong anibersaryo.
Happy 25th anniversary po sa ating himpilan to many more successful years to come.
Mula po sa bumubuo sa produksyon ng Mata ng Agila sa Tanghali, masaya po kami sa pagdiriwang ng 25 taon ng ating himpilan.
Natuklasan ng mga siyentipiko mula sa University of California ang isang bagong kulay mula sa kanilang pag-eeksperimento sa laser pulses na nakatutok sa mga mata. Tinatawag nila itong olo na sinasabing mailalarawan na para bagang intensely saturated teal. 5 sa mga taong kabilang sa eksperimento pa lamang ang nakakakita ng bagong kulay na ito. Pinaniniwalaan rin ng mga eksperto na ang patuloy na pag-aaral nito ay maaaring makatulong sa mga aplikasyon sa pag-unawa ng color blindness. Ang ganda. Nag-viral po isang bakery na nagbebenta ng blueberry bread sa China dahil sa walang humpay na pagtangkilik ng isang babae nito. Araw-araw, bumibili ang babaeng ito na alam niya na agad kung may binago ang bakery sa recipe hanggang sa isang araw ay sinabi ng tindahan na hindi na ito ibebenta. Labis na ikinalungkot ng babae nung itinigil ng tindahan ang pagbenta ng naturang pastry dahil sa kahinaan nito sa sales. Dahil rito, 3 magkasunod na araw at nangampanya ang babae na sana'y ibalik ang paborito niyang tinapay sa bakery. Naantig ang may-ari sa kanyang pagmamahal kaya't ibinalik nila ang tinapay. Simula noon, araw-araw ibinibili niya ang natirang tinapay sa takot na baka mawalang muli ito. Nang mag-viral ang kanyang kwento ay nagdagsaan ang mga tao mula sa iba't ibang lugar upang subukan ito. Mabilis din itong naging best-selling item ng naturang bakery. Mabilis na naging favorite ito ng mga tao na pati siya ay napipilitan ng mag-reserve at makipagkompetensya sa ibang netizens dahil sa takot na hindi niya ito maabutan pa sa bakery. Para naman sa babae, masaya na siya at ang mahalaga ay nasa bakery na uli ito at tinatangkilik na rin ng ibang mga tao. Inilabas ng Rolls-Royce ang isang chess set na mas mahal pa sa karaniwang kotse. Hindi ito isang ordinaryong chess set po ha. Ang disenyo ay futuristic na ang bawat piraso nito ay may ceramic coating na maaaring i-customize gamit ang isa sa 13 colors ng Rolls-Royce at 4 na uri ng veneers. Ang bawat detalye ay maingat na ginawa gamit ang premium materials na sumasalamin sa disenyo at karangyaan ng mga sasakyan ng brand. May magnet sa ilalim ng chessboard upang hindi matumba ang mga pieces habang naglalaro. Nakatago rin sa bawat gilid ng board ang isang dagdag na reyna para sa pawn promotion. Hindi magiging kumpletong Rolls-Royce kung wala ang kilalang Spirit of Ecstasy na maingat na inilagay sa harap at likod ng chessboard. Tulad ng mga sasakyan ng brand, ang chess set na ito ay sumasalamin sa elegance, customization at craftsmanship na kung saan tiyak ang Rolls-Royce experience. Narito po kami para maghatid ng mga balita saan mang dako ng mundo. Ako po si Rikki, Alagao, Flores at ito ang Mata ng Agila International. Para naman po sa mga balitang nangyari sa iba't ibang panig ng mundo, punta po tayo kay Alma Angeles para sa Net 25 World News. Take it away, Alma.
Thank you, Nina. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alma Angeles for Net 25 World News. On tonight's headlines. President Marcos orders an investigation into alleged Chinese interference in next month's elections, following claims of troll farm links. And then Russia's deadly Kiev attack, which prompted a rare stop message from President Trump to Putin. And the news starts now. Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos has ordered an investigation into alleged foreign interference in next month's elections after a top security official's warning that Chinese state-sponsored groups may be attempting to influence the outcome of the vote.
Ito po ay talaga nakakaalarma at paiigtingin pa po natin ang sa utos na rin po ng ating administrasyon na imbestigahan ng malalim para malaman po natin kung ano man ang katotohanan patungkol po dito.
The order came after a top National Security Council official told the Senate hearing today that signs of Chinese information operations had been detected. His comments coincided with Senator Francis Tolentino presenting what he said was evidence linking the Chinese embassy in Manila to the proliferation of troll farm operations in the Philippines. Tolentino said the embassy had paid a local marketing firm to run online operations and presented what he said was a copy of check issued by the mission as proof. These troll farms were engaged not only to openly provide information and convey the policies of the Chinese government, but also to act as a covert disinformation and influence operation against the Philippine government and the Filipino people. This, according to Tolentino in a statement on Thursday. China's foreign ministry and its embassy in Manila rejected these accusations. At stake in the May elections are 317 congressional seats and thousands of local posts. But the fiercest contest is for 12 spots in the 24-seat Senate, a chamber known for its power in shaping policies. The allegations come amid strained ties and confrontations between China and U.S. allied the Philippines in the past few years over disputed features in the South China Sea. And now to the ongoing devastation in Ukraine. Even amidst the rubble in Kiev, there was a glimmer of hope overnight as rescue workers pulled a man alive after those intense Russian strikes. Sadly, the death toll has now climbed to at least 12, with many more injured. And this violence has even prompted a direct and somewhat unusual message from President Trump to Vladimir Putin. Here's more.
Rescue workers found a man alive in the rubble in Kyiv after Russia hit the Ukrainian capital overnight. At least 12 people were killed in the missile and drone strikes, and at least 90 were wounded in the biggest attack there this year. Anxious friends and relatives of those missing stood near destroyed buildings hoping for good news. The violence led to a rare rebuke from U.S. President Donald Trump, who told Russian President Vladimir Putin on Truth Social, quote, "Vladimir, stop." Trump was asked about his message to Putin during a meeting with Norway's Prime Minister in the Oval Office.
What is your level of frustration with President Putin?
I didn't like last night. I wasn't happy with it. And we're in the midst of talking peace, and missiles were fired. And I was not happy with it. That's what I meant.
Why are you not putting more pressure on Russia? I know a lot of Europeans.
Putting a lot of pressure. You don't know what pressure I'm putting on Russia. They're dealing. You have no idea what pressure I'm putting on Russia. We're putting a lot of pressure.
Can you maybe tell us that?
We're putting a lot of pressure on Russia, and Russia knows that, and some people that are close to it know, or he wouldn't be talking right now.
What concessions has Russia offered up thus far to get to the point where you're closer to peace?
Stopping the war, taking the whole country. Pretty big concession.
Trump said he still believed both sides wanted to make a deal to end the war begun by Russia in 2022. But the White House has also threatened to abandon its efforts at peace talks if no progress is made soon. On Wednesday, Trump slammed Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky over a comment in which Zelensky repeated that Kyiv would not recognize Russia's occupation of Crimea. Zelensky, who cut short his trip to South Africa after the Russian attack, said he did not see signs Washington was putting strong pressure on Russia. Ukraine's foreign minister said on X that the brutal strike showed that Russia, not Ukraine, was the obstacle to peace, a viewpoint shared by EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas during her visit to Moldova.
It is clear that we want peace. Moldovans want peace, Ukrainians want peace, the Europeans want peace. But the reality is that Putin is escalating attacks, and it's making it clear that he doesn't want peace. It takes two to want peace. It only takes one to want war. We have to keep supporting Ukraine, that they are able to defend themselves.
Talks did take place between the U.S., Ukrainian, and European officials in London this week, and Zelensky said on Thursday that the meeting with a U.S. representative had not been easy, but that it had been constructive. A U.S. official said Trump's special envoy is expected to meet Putin on Friday for more talks.
And we're following some disturbing news out of France. Police are reporting a deadly knife attack at a school in Nantes. Tragically, one student has been killed and 3 others have been injured. Now, this incident unfolded earlier today, and authorities say the attacker, a 15-year-old student at the school, was eventually stopped by teachers who bravely intervened. Understandably, there's a lot of anxiety among parents. Here's one father, Nicholas, speaking about the wait to be reunited with his children.
Pour le moment, on attend de récupérer nos enfants. Et puis,
For the moment, we're waiting to pick up our children. And we know everything is okay, but we're waiting to be able to hold them in our arms, to make sure and to help deal with the stress this will have caused.
Le stress que ça va générer, quoi.
On était en cours de maths du coup et on entend les gens.
We were in a maths class and we heard people running and screaming. It was frightening at first, but we didn't understand. We were saying, "What's happening?" Our teacher was reassuring us, saying it's just people running in the corridors. Then it calmed down, but I and some other people in my class were very, very worried because we were thinking something is not right. Then for a second time people were running and were screaming, "Run, run, run." We heard doors slamming. And we said, something is not right. We wanted to close the door. Then a supervisor came and said to us, get out and run. And then we understood there was something bad, and we took our stuff and we left and we ran, and going down the stairs we saw that Justin was being held by a member of staff, and there you go.
Immobilisé par un personnel de l'établissement.
C'est un choc, je suis parent d'élève.
It's a shock. I'm a parent. I have 2 children at the school who are happy at school, in a school which is open to the world, positive, with students who come from the area who know it. And to find out today that the school is in mourning with a murder in the school by a student, it's an awful thing which as a parent you never imagine having to go through. It's an even greater shock because of the big difference between the everyday positive experience and this awful event.
Vécu au quotidien qui est positif et ce terrible événement est grand.
While police haven't yet officially confirmed the age or gender of the student who was killed, French media are reporting that the victim was a girl. Importantly, at this early stage, investigators say there's nothing to suggest a terrorist motive behind this attack. And we're getting further details from French media. France Info is reporting that the stabbing may have followed some kind of conflict among students, and that the 15-year-old attacker had reportedly been suffering from depression. Local reports also paint a picture of the attacker, saying he was dressed entirely in black and wearing a helmet and balaclava. 2 knives were reportedly found near his belongings. And there are also unconfirmed reports from BFM TV that the attacker may have emailed a document expressing a negative view of society to other students at the school. However, police have not yet been able to verify that information. Turning now to that massive wildfire raging in New Jersey's Pinelands. We've been following this closely, and today there's a significant development. Authorities now announcing an arrest in connection with the blaze, which has already scorched a staggering 15,000 acres and could become the state's largest in years. Take a look. Officials say the Jones Road wildfire, which started Tuesday in the Greenwood Forest Wildlife Management Area, was sparked by an improperly extinguished bonfire. And today, Ocean County Prosecutor Badley Bilheimer announced that a suspect is in custody.
But we did arrest a 19-year-old young man from Waretown. His name is Joseph Kling. We believe he is the person responsible for starting this fire, and we intend to prosecute him to the fullest extent of the law.
Prosecutor Bilheimer didn't go into all the specifics of how they identified Kling, but he did mention the use of technology and witness statements.
We used some investigative techniques that I don't necessarily want to disclose at this time, but some technological advances, I can say publicly, that we were able to place him at the scene, and we have some witness statements that corroborate that.
While an arrest has been made, the question of why the fire was started remains.
I'm not prepared to discuss the motive at this time, nor does the state have to prove what the motive is. We can just confidently say that we think the fire was set intentionally.
Meanwhile, the fire continues to burn, but there is some progress on containing it. The New Jersey Forest Fire Service says It was about 50% contained as of yesterday evening. Here's Chief Bill Donnelly with an update on what to expect in the coming days.
The fire's consuming the unburned fuels, and once that's completed and those unburned fuels burn up, we should see the smoke subside. Now you're going to see little smokes along the road and things like that there, and when you do, you know, our folks are going out there and they're mopping them up. So this is probably going to continue, at least burning little fires and some smoke up till we get the rain that's forecasted for Saturday.
There was some concerns raised about how close the fire was getting to a nuclear power plant in the area. Chief Donnelly addressed that as well.
We have fire which has burned right up to the nuclear plant. However, that fire is out, best we can tell, and we are keeping folks in the area to continue to monitor that. So in the event anything should start to smoke or smolder, we'll have resources in place to deal with it immediately.
So a significant development in the Pinelands wildfire with an arrest made, and officials are hopeful that the expected rain this weekend will help bring this massive blaze under full control. Turning now to Oklahoma, where severe weather is making headlines tonight. Massive storm clouds have been rolling across the state, lighting up the sky with frequent lightning strikes as the powerful system brings dangerous conditions to the region. Around 6:20 p.m., a tornado touched down near Freedom with rotation spotted east of town. Tornado warnings hit Dewey, Woodward, Ellis, and Harper counties, triggering sirens in Fargo. Golf ball-sized hail, 60 to 80 miles per hour winds, and flash flooding are causing chaos. Power outages hit 1,500 in Ellis County as storms push east. The tornado threat remains low, but hail, wind, and flooding risks persist. And tonight, we're also seeing some unusually strong words coming out of Canada today. Prime Minister Mark Carney is declaring that the traditional friendship between Canada and the U.S. is, in his words, over. Carney is accusing President Trump of undermining their relationship, particularly when it comes to trade. And as we'll see, the impact is being felt by everyday Canadians. Thomas I. Likeness for more.
On Wednesday, Trump repeated his false claims that the U.S. is subsidizing Canada when it buys Canadian goods.
I love the Canadian people. I like Canada, but it's costing us $200 billion a year to support Canada. $200 billion. And I say, why are we doing that? You know what? We can make our own cars. We have more energy than they do. We have more energy than anybody in the world. We don't need their lumber, obviously. We have more lumber. We have a lot of lumber. We have a lot of everything that they sell us.
The president then focused on the auto industry. He accuses Canada of taking a large percentage of car manufacturing that used to be done in the United States.
I really don't want cars from Canada. So when I put tariffs on Canada, they're paying 25%, but that could go up in terms of cars. When we put tariffs on, all we're doing is we're saying, we don't want your cars.
Canada's share of the North American car industry had been decided by a trade agreement that Trump negotiated during his first term and now doesn't want to honor. That, says Prime Minister Mark Carney, is more evidence that relations between the two countries have changed.
Yesterday was more proof, as if any were needed, that the old relationship with the United States is over, and proof that we need to chart a new path. As I've been saying, this is a tragedy, but it's also our new reality. President Trump has been attacking Canada, America's closest ally, America's closest partner.
The trade war is a major issue in the Canadian election campaign. Not only are politicians campaigning on the issue, but people on the street are worried about Trump's influence on their economy. Many people are boycotting American-made goods and canceling travel to the United States. For his part, Carney says he's not prepared to give in to any unreasonable demands from Trump.
To underscore again, the president, his ideas in his head, his designs, wants to break us so he can own us. The question is, who's going to stand up to that? I'm ready to do it.
While Trump continues to talk tough on trade, he's toned down earlier suggestions that Canada should become the 51st American state. Carney's Liberals are poised to win Monday's election. They have a 3.6% lead over the Conservatives, led by Pierre Poilievre in the latest public opinion poll, but that may not be enough support for Carney to win a majority. He may have to settle for a minority government that would have to be propped up by smaller parties. Thomas Likeness, Net 25 World News.
And we're getting some conflicting signals out of the U.S. and China today regarding those ongoing trade tensions. Despite President Trump's claims, Beijing is now saying flat out that the two sides are not currently engaged in any consultations or talks about tariffs. Take a look. China's Foreign Ministry spokesperson, Guo Jiakun, held a press briefing earlier today and directly contradicted President Trump's assertions from yesterday. Trump had suggested that trade talks were underway.
Can you clarify, Mr. President, on China?
Yeah, we are going to have a fair deal with China. It's going to be fair.
Are you talking to them actively now?
Actively. Everything's active. Everybody wants to be a part of what we're doing. They know that they can't get away with it any longer, but they're still going to do fine.
But Guo stated very clearly.
Regarding the first question you asked, yesterday, myself and my colleagues from the Ministry of Commerce have clearly answered this question. China and the United States have not held any consultations or negotiations on tariffs, and the United States should not mislead the public.
Adding to the confusion, Guo also said he wasn't aware of any plans by Beijing to exempt tariffs on some U.S. imports.
Regarding the second question you asked, I am not familiar with the specifics of what you are referring to. I suggest you to inquire from the competent authorities in China.
Now, this comes after some reports suggested that China might be considering such a move. So right now, it's a bit of a he said, she said situation, leaving everyone wondering when or even if these two economic giants will actually sit down to discuss those high tariffs they've slapped on each other's goods. And the impact of these tariffs is significant. We're talking about U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods now sitting at a massive 145%, and China's retaliatory tariffs on U.S. imports at 125%. This has really disrupted businesses on both sides, forcing many to rethink their operations. The Trump administration had previously hinted at potentially lowering some tariffs on Chinese goods. But that was reportedly dependent on talks actually happening.
How soon do you want to bring the tariffs on Chinese goods
Well, that
down?
depends on them.
China, for its part, has consistently said that the U.S. needs to completely remove all of those unilateral tariffs if they truly want to resolve this trade dispute. Interestingly, just today, top policymakers in China held a meeting where they specifically emphasized the need to support their own businesses and workers who are facing these rising external shocks. And also, we're following a developing story out of South Korea, where former President Moon Jae-in is now pushing back hard against bribery charges. He's accusing prosecutors of political overreach and abusing their power.
Former South Korean President Moon Jae-in has been charged with bribery. That's according to a prosecution office spokesperson on Thursday, who says it's a case involving Moon's former son-in-law having a job at a Thai airline. Prosecutors allege former lawmaker Lee Sang-jik helped arrange the job at a Thai-based corporation that Lee controlled in 2018 to 2020. In return, Lee allegedly secured a top government position, head of South Korea's Small Business and Startup Agency. Lee has been charged with bribery and breach of trust. Prosecutors had been investigating whether Moon's former son-in-law getting hired, along with the salary and living expenses he received, amounted to an improper deal. They allege the job's salary of around $180,000 was irregular and constituted a bribe to the then president.
In any case, it seems that my indictment on bribery charges, is a clear example of how the prosecution is becoming political and the abuse of prosecutorial power.
사례 같아서 앞으로 이제 그 점을 내 개인적인
Beyond revealing my personal innocence, I plan to focus on properly uncovering and informing the public about the abuse and politicization of the prosecution's power.
드러내고 좀 국민들에게 알리는데 좀 주력을 할 계획입니다.
Moon, now 72, served as president from 2017 to 2022. He was succeeded by conservative leader Yoon Suk-yeol, who was recently impeached and removed from office after a controversial declaration of martial law.
And tonight, across Europe, thousands are coming together to remember one of history's darkest chapters. In both Germany and Poland, moving ceremonies are taking place to mark Israel's Holocaust Remembrance Day, a powerful reminder of the millions who died.
Well, marching, thank you.
Hello. Hello. Generale, proszę. Hey, telephone.
And the news continues here on Net 25. We'll be right back.
From groundbreaking food tech to essential agribusiness investment forum, we are taking you inside the biggest gathering of food and agribusiness leaders, the Feel Food Expo.
We have 300 exhibitors. 75 of them are food equipment manufacturers.
Because we see a tremendous opportunity in this particular field, especially among the small and medium-scale industry, where we hope to further develop the products.
When you talk of food security, kailangan talaga natin ng maraming product.
We have to balance the input against our production. So it's a question of really having the right supply chain.
Open for business with Cesar Vallejos, Sunday, 9 p.m.
Sunday 25.
Here's a top trend on TikTok that's supposed to be good for your health. Dopamine dressing. Bright fabrics, colourful jewellery, outlandish outfits. So what's it all about? Activating happiness hormones.
But everything you consume.
But does dopamine dressing really boost your mood? Well, it certainly won't do any harm to try it out. But with a lot of advice darting around the internet, it's hard to tell. Is something helpful? Pointless? Dangerous? Take nicotine pouches. Some say they increase energy and alertness. Time to take a closer look on In Good Shape.
The Shanghai Auto Show is turning heads this week, and not just with your standard new models. We're seeing everything from experimental flying cars, yes, you heard that right, to SUVs with built-in hot pot cooking stations. It's a wild look at how car makers are trying to win over buyers in China's incredibly competitive market.
Car manufacturers are eager to stand out in China's constantly innovating auto market. Nowhere is this more obvious than at Shanghai's auto show, running this week, where new models on display feature immersive entertainment, fragrance control, in-car refrigerators, and even hot pot cooking equipment. China's car market, the world's largest and most electrified, is seeing a brutal price war. That's as a trade spat with the US and electric vehicle tariffs in Europe have pushed car makers' focus onto the domestic market. Here, gadgets are major selling points. Li Xiang, a marketing expert at Chinese EV maker NIO, said the pace of innovation was relentless.
Chinese customers are expecting very high level of novelty and new technologies, and the speed of product enhancement is very, very fast in Chinese market because innovation is happening every day. So our product launch cadence is actually like 2 or 3 times faster than the legacy brands. It puts a very high pressure on manufacturers, but also thanks to that, we got the chance to develop a lot of new techs here.
Reuters reporter Casey Hall was at the show speaking to car makers and testing out the gadgets.
Some of the coolest innovations and pieces of tech we've seen at the Shanghai Auto Show this week include 4D digital cockpits, where you can be watching a movie or playing a game when your car is parked, and the car will actually shake and move in response to what's happening on the screen. We've also seen some car makers really focusing on in-car fragrances.
Over 100 models and concept vehicles have been unveiled, with crowds flocking to see Chinese car maker XPeng's experimental flying car, a passenger-carrying drone. However, perhaps the most truly Chinese innovation for the local market is a feature of Rox Motors' $40,000 SUV. It aims to capitalize on a trend for outdoor activities with a tailgate kitchen extension that cooks hot pot, a go-to in Chinese cuisine. Chief Strategy Officer David Wu explained.
Since the Chinese stomach is not for cold, they like hot pot, hot food, hot drink. So there's nothing that's more relaxed than a cup of tea.
Sometimes it's easy to forget just how much we've learned about the universe. Well, this week marks a pretty incredible milestone. The Hubble Space Telescope is celebrating its 35th birthday. Launched way back in 1990, this amazing piece of technology has completely changed how we see the cosmos. And to mark the occasion, NASA has just released some stunning new images. Take a look.
So to celebrate Hubble's 35th birthday, we're releasing 4 new images from Hubble. There are different parts of the universe. One of them is the Rosette Nebula, or a part of it, where stars are still forming. And you can see dark clouds and then lit up clouds behind those where new stars are ionizing the gas and showing off this glow. We also are releasing an image of a planetary nebula. Now, this colorful nebula really has nothing to do with planets. That's just what they called it decades ago. But it is really the remnants of a dead star system, and the outflows from the remaining white dwarf star are creating this glowing cloud that's expanding away from the central sources there. We have an image from outside of our galaxy of another galaxy. This is a spiral galaxy. It doesn't look quite like we think our Milky Way does because the spiral arms are kind of smudged together. We call it a flocculent spiral. But in the middle, you see this amazing bar-like structure. These are common in some types of spiral galaxies, and they are the mechanism by which gas and dust from the outer parts of the galaxy are funneled in toward the middle and can fuel the formation of new stars. We think our Milky Way also has some kind of a bar in the center. And then much closer to home in our own solar system, we've taken new pictures of Mars. These really wonderful clear shots of Mars show different features on the planet from different perspectives. As Mars is rotating, we see the icy poles on the top, we see clouds, and we can also see mountain ranges and deep canyons and plain structures.
And with that, we end tonight's broadcast. For everyone here on Net 25, I'm Alma Angeles. Have a great weekend. Good night.